So this is the coding walkthrough for prototype 0.5. This week has been a bit of a smaller update compared to previous weeks, largely because we've all had to concentrate on the reflective journal. So I will go through what code we have done, which is take the orbital system script from last week, which I went through in prototype 0.4's coding walkthrough. If you haven't watched that, watch that now. But we took that script and we activated it and placed it in here so that it kind of works, essentially. The orbital system is one of the main mechanics of Star Beast, so it was pretty imperative that we got that to work. So it is, and I will point this out before we do any demonstrations, it is a very, very basic system. It's mainly proof of concept at this point. Obviously, I didn't have a lot of time this week to really go into that. That'll be refined in later weeks along with the movement. So yeah, it's very, very basic, and I'll just go through what it entails right now. Let's maximize this just so I can... Actually, no, we won't. Because... Where is it? There it is. Yeah. Okay, I forgot about that. Where is that? There it is. Audio source delete. It's about time that got deleted. Yeah, if you've watched earlier coding videos, you'd know what that's from. That's last week's Superman glitch, which was rather entertaining. If you don't know what that is, then go and watch that. It was a very interesting glitch from Prototype 0.4. So as you can see here, we've disabled the Hydra, mainly because I was trying to test out the orbital system and it was irritating me, so I just turned it off. He can't do anything now. And yeah. So what this essentially does is if we go up to this building here, it's not supposed to put you up really high, it's just supposed to do this. So what it does is just put you in to an orbit here. And then you can use the jumping, which has been temporarily unlimited. You can use the jumping to fly up. And then once you've done that, that didn't quite work as intended there, but let's try again. If you click on the player, and you'll see the custom gravity script just by the movement 2 on the right there. See how gravity scale is 2? So if we go gliding up here, and then we go this way, hold shift, gravity scale is now 0.1. And what we can use, we can basically use that to glide. So the idea behind the mechanic, essentially, is you use the orbital system to get up really high, and then once you're high enough, use the gliding mechanic to essentially travel, because the world at Starbase is going to be an open world, so you'll have to travel around a lot, so the gliding system enables you to move around. Yeah, I mean that's the basic idea behind it. As you can see, it's very, very basic at the moment and very buggy, but it is proof of concept. So I'll now go through the code for that, essentially. So the first one I'm going to go through, I'll go through this one first, is the custom gravity script. Now, the reason why I've got custom gravity is because even though Unity has its own base gravity, in 3D there is no way to adjust how much gravity there is. So for example, last year when I was making a game, I was doing it in 2D and there is a way to do that. And for some reason there's just not a gravity scale, which is what it's called. There's no gravity scale in Unity 3D. I don't know why. So what we've had to do essentially is make our own gravity. So if you look here, we go to the rigid body, use gravity is disabled, we've had to turn that off, and we basically make our own here. So what we've got here then is a public float gravity scale. So that's the float to make our own essentially, and we default it as 2F. And then we disable the global gravity here, and yeah, basically make sure it doesn't use it, because yeah, that's what we don't want it to do. And then we times the global gravity by the gravity scale, which is that one there, times vector 3's, and then add a force so that it basically keeps the player on the ground. And whenever the player jumps up, the force then pushes them back down. It works like normal gravity, essentially. You know, when you jump up in real life, you get pulled back down to the earth. That's how that pretty much works. So then what we've got here is a very, very basic gliding mechanic, which I added, which basically means if you're holding the shift key, then change the gravity scale to 0.1, and if you're not, then change it back to 2. Yeah, so that essentially allows the player to glide. And then what we've got here is, again, a basic script. This takes the orbital system script from last week and disables it at startup, so the player isn't, as soon as they begin, just caught up in the gravity well forever. It disables it on startup, so it's only activated when the player gets within a certain distance of the, where is it, of the building there. So if you look at this building, come here, we've got a box collider on the building as well as a sphere collider, a massive one around it. Now if you look here, it is trigger, so it isn't, if we go towards it, we won't collide with the sphere collider, we'll be triggered. A trigger will be activated by it, essentially. And what that does is when the trigger is activated, can orbit is true. And when the player goes out of the sphere collider, can orbit is false. So what we do here is go, if can orbit is true, then we enable the orbital system script here. So that essentially then enables the rotation, so the player rotates around it as he's supposed to. But if can orbit is not true, then disable the script. So yeah, so what that basically means is when the player's here, everything's fine and dandy, but when he gets up close to the building here, he's swept up in its orbit, and he can then jump up and then glide away. So we've temporarily disabled the limiting to the jumping, because originally it was that with the jump, you could only jump once, and then a limit would set in, and then you'd have to fall back and touch the ground before you could jump again. So I've disabled that in this script purely just to test out the orbit and make sure it works. It will be re-enabled because it's far too overpowered to not be. But yeah, for now it's just to test it essentially. So a bit of a shorter coding video this week, but not a lot has been changed, to be honest. It's mainly just implementing the orbital system. Next week we'll probably be refining this as well as movement, so make sure to tune in for that one.